This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events. As you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, they are, Dega. And this half of the show is in partnership with Little Moments Count. And, we're excited to partner with Little Moments Count and bring on experts in early childhood development. And Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative that focuses on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life.
Absolutely. And for more information, you can visit at littlemomentscount.org. That's littlemomentscount.org. And it's been a great, 3 years, Haley, partnership with Little Moments Count. And we have a guest on. And tonight we're really excited to be partnering with Little Moments Count. And, we host these conversations on early childhood development and bring guests on, to see what they have to say about child development and creating bright futures and strong communities. And tonight we have Kim Lage, an enrolled member of White Earth Reservation, along with her siblings, were born and raised traditional grandmother in a community full of relatives. Kim has 4 grown children and resides and currently outside the White Earth Reservation. Kim has worked with childcare development, early childcare program for over 20 years. And we are really excited just to have a great conversation with Kim. Welcome to Native Roots Radio.
Anin Bushu from Galwaganikug. Thank you so much for having me, and certainly appreciate this evening's sponsor, Little Moments Count. So miigwech to them.
Absolutely. Hey, let's jump right into this because, Kim, these segments fly by, but I have a couple questions that I'd love to ask you. And again, big thank you and Peeny Gigi for being on. As someone deeply involved in early childhood development programs for over 20 years, what are your key insights you've gained about the significance of early experiences on brain development, especially during those critical years up to age 3 that we talk about?
Yes. Very, very key moments in a child's life. And as in our teachings of our people, is that we teach that our children come from the Creator. They come with wisdom and knowledge, and that we should look to our children, that we can be everything we can to them to guide them in the paths that they will go and be the continuance of our people. So I get so excited about the reasoning behind how the conference came to us here was that we had people that were hungry for that news. And we started to hear a little bit about, brain development, the importance of brain development. And that really then triggered us to say, you know what, we don't hear as much in our communities because we're rural, and we need to bring that attention here and get other people involved and also excited to hear that these are wonderful things because our children are such gifts.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about brain development, and is it do you think it's a newer thing in the last 20 years that you've been experienced, or is it something that 20 years ago you kind of jumped in and people knew that the first 3 years were so important?
Yes, those formative years are very important, especially the attachment and just the nurturing that a child needs to help that brain function. We know, as in anything, if stress enters, it can disrupt the brain development. It's those narrow connections that we want to make sure that are strong, and that is really embedded in them to be nurtured and to be guided, and just knowing that brain was like, wow, is now we have attention to it, that this is a functioning part of the body, not just our five senses, but that brain also. And so we got so excited about that we decided that is conference, trainings, anything that we touch on, it leads back to the importance of that early formative years of those children.
It's almost like developing a muscle. When you talk about, trauma can affect it. But if you're working hard and strengthening and learning and reading to your kids early on, it really helps connect those neurons.
Correct. And then that is something that in the region of the brain, the frontal cortex, I often refer to it as like a screen door. It's there. It lets things in, but it lets things out also. And so we think about all the research that has gone in these 20 plus years, because it really started becoming a hot ticketed item to hear more about brain development in the last 25 years. And I thought, in my small world of non-education in brain development, but hearing and understanding it, I thought, it's so important that we see this stage of development up through those early years of adolescence. And that's what brain research is telling us. That part of the brain is still being developed in their early 20s. And like a screen door, things are coming in, but things are also going out.
Yeah.
So we want to build those neural networks as strong as possible. And that does come with a lot of tender, loving care and nurturing for our children.
Well, also, you being a citizen of White Earth, your culture background and upbringing, it has to deal with your approach with early childhood development for our Native kids.
Correct. It was one of those things. I was raised in a household of a grandmother, several old uncles, but they were all loving and caring and deeply passionate about the future. And that was me. That was my siblings. That was my grandmother's grandchildren, her children. And as in any community, there's derailments. We know that. But she gave me that hope when I was very young that I had possibilities. And that was all connected to the culture. And that was, the significance of learning about what nature has to offer us. And now here we are in today's society talking more about getting our children back to nature and how important that is for that brain development. And I think about that as my grandmother and my uncles took me out many a time when I was a child and just introduced me to nature and what it had to teach. And so I think about that as being one of those factors that does help a child in regulation of their emotions. And so we need to pay attention to that part of the research in brain development.
So that would be called kind of the holistic approach for the Native children. Is that what you're kind of explaining there?
Yes, exactly. We teach so much through all of what we have been given as gifts, and that is a gift.
Yeah, I don't think we as citizens here in the cities have our bare feet in the Mother Earth enough, and just those little things really do matter in everybody's growth and everyone's serenity. So, hey, we're here with Kim Lage, and we're talking early development and really having a great conversation. But we got to take a quick break. Haley, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This half of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count. And being a former early childhood educator myself, I know that nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days of life. So that's why we know like little things like talking and playing and reading and singing just help create those pathways that just set the child up for a better future.
Right. And for more information, you can visit at littlemomentscount.org. And hey, we're here with Kim Lage, and she is talking about her 20 years of experience with childcare and early development. And we are having an awesome conversation. Welcome back, Kim. And let's keep going here. These segments just go really fast here. And we're really excited to have you on here. We were kind of talking right on. We were kind of talking about the holistic approach in the first 3 years and how important it is. And can you share with us the genesis of Brain Development Community Collaborative Conference and what inspired its formation?
That comes with a unique story. And you may have had this speaker on before too, Barb Faber. And she had been in my early years the director of the childcare program. And so her and I together had attended a CCDF regional meeting in Chicago. And we were sitting there and they had a speaker, Dr. Kathy Grace is her name. And this woman got up and she started talking about the structure of the brain, all the happenings in the brain. And I was just in awe of, wow, this is something that really needs to be heard by a lot of people. And we think about the early childhood teachers and childcare providers. Everyone from our bus drivers to our principals need to hear this kind of information. And so Dr. Kathy Grace, I approached her. Barb said, go up to her and just ask her. So I went up to Dr. Kathy Grace and I said, we really, really want to hear more on this. And we invited her and she was our first speaker. And we put her on stage with several other keynote speakers that talked passionately and informatively about the structure of the brain, about the influences, and about the richness of culture. How culture does impact the child's development. So, and we brought together some wonderful speakers over the years, and we had everything from local people and our mental health, our early childhood, speak on matters that were very important to them about child development. We've had Dr. Bruce Perry speaking on the adverse effects of trauma on the brain. And that was phenomenal speaking. And so I think about all these speakers in the beginning that help us dive even deeper into what was brain development and how important it was in those early years. And that just kind of snowballed from one year to the next. And pretty soon we got to our 2020th anniversary, and we were putting on the 20th one. And you wonder, where did those 20 years go? But it was very, very so important to me to hear that and know that people were anxious to hear that and very hungry to hear that. And so we had a slight interruption for, the nation's shutdown, but here we are back again and hoping to get back on track with the speakers. We have a lot of great speakers returning, and new speakers coming in with new information. And so it will be a fun and exciting time. And we just hope more people are able to get back on track for that conference, because like we've been out now for a couple years. So, but yeah, so that was a start, and that is not the end.
Right on. Good for you, and great information. What other milestones and achievements are you proud of with this 20-year history?
Yeah, it really starts to show, and that when you see these young people and they look so familiar, and then you realize, oh, they were one of our children in our childcare centers, in our family childcares, and they're all grown, and they remember you. That's it. They remember the good things that happened in childcare while they were there. All the books we used to read. We used to do a reading library, mobile library, and I used to do that for the kids. I'd stop at each of the sites and read books, and especially culturally rich books, and just significance of the importance of culture and how we touch on it, whether it be in storytelling, in traditional storytelling, or we read it from a book. But it's so important for us to find our strengths in our culture. And that's one of those things where I like to say we are working really hard at bringing back language, but understanding the importance of our culture for our young children. So anyhow, those books, experiences, we do a lot of community outreach. We do a lot of activities with our kids, helping them to know about what is this, when we're talking about, them developing to their fullest potential. And it's just exciting things that we are, constantly looking for opportunities to be in our community, to demonstrate and to share knowledge of brain development, of social emotional development, cognitive development, child's development that is natural. It is natural. We don't need to fight against it. We need to embrace it. And hear more from our children, because they have a lot of wisdom to share for us.
Exactly. And I can feel your excitement of seeing, I guess you'd kind of call them alumni, people that have gone through your program that are all grown up now, and seeing them thriving and remembering the stories and remembering you. That's huge, and that's gratifying, but it also shows how your program's really working too.
We always say the child's first teacher in their life is their parent. But knowing too that if they are in a child care situation, it may be their grandmother, auntie, uncle, but it's also a licensed child care centers, family child cares that we have our little ones in. And I'm happy because of the job that I do. I get to go see those kids every day, almost every day, and interact with them. And it's so much fun because they all run up to me and, hi, Grandma. And so, yeah.
First of all, that's very cute. And second of all, I believe that's the way it should be. So kudos to you, Kim. Really, that's Haley, do you have anything? I'm getting a little emotional here.
I just want to mention just the importance of being around other kids, no matter like what age your kid is, especially in those first few years of life. I mean, just the social and the communication, just being around kids their age that, they're learning rules and societal norms, just, the behavior things. And yeah, it's just so important because I think a lot of us don't really remember, maybe those our first year of life or our second year, but those experiences that we're in and the environment that we're in really does shape whether or not what we think about ourselves, how we view the world and how we grow up and just the way that you think, and it just really affects it. And I just,
yes, it's laying the foundation. It's really laying the foundation for what we build upon. And again, the brain is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. And just knowing that, man, that is networks that are happening even to this day at my age, and that we can channel to other sites in our brain to learn something new. And sometimes that, we say to learn something new is a struggle. But if you start putting that with a hands-on type activity, you find children just thrive, because that is right there is the stage of development they are in, that tactile. And they want to do those activities that help, play, with blocks, or they're painting with their hands, or they're scribbling on walls. That's okay, because that's part of development. Their brain is saying, do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, having a positive brain development is obviously so much better than trauma, because you remember both, and they're both deeply embedded, the good and bad. And to have more organizations like what you're doing and Little Moments Count, really, I just have to commend you. And it truly, the children are our future, and you sound, Kim, you sound like a great auntie, and we really appreciate you being on today.
Miigwech. I'd gladly be anyone's grandmother, auntie, sister, whatever is needed, because that is truly who I am. I take that role very important.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being on. And it really has come through the microphone and the radio here that is who you truly are. So really big Pinagigi for coming on. Very, very, very emotional first part of the show. I really appreciate it, Kim. All right. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.